Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Today, we're going to talk about solar. I have David here who has a much more professional background than I have. I should step up my game moving forward. David, why don't you introduce yourself and the company you represent, and also the beautiful location that you're in? We'd love to hear that.
Awesome. Well, hey, everyone. My name's David Turpin. I'm the VP of Sales for RG Electric out here in Las Vegas. I've been in the solar industry for 13 years. I've worked for various different companies from small mom and pops up to some of the largest renewable energy companies in the world. My specialty is sales and marketing and building sales teams and teaching them how to, have that conversation at the dinner table or over the phone with, prospects. Living out here in Las Vegas, it's a very desirable spot for many people to travel. But for those of us who live out here, we don't make it to the strip very often, but it is in the background.
It brought many memories from my solar days when we were invited to the expos in Vegas, and everything was paid for by the finance institutions. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of networking. So I'm happy to talk about that in a second as well. But you said 13 years experience in the industry. What made you join the solar revolution, as some people like to call back then?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. Solar was not on my radar 13 years ago. I was actually helping a few friends doing a big publication marketing blitz down in Texas for Hearst Communication, where we would set up marketing tables at professional sporting events and get people to sign up for the Wall Street Journal or USA Today or the local newspaper. So after doing that and helping my friend launch a few teams at some of the different pro stadiums in that area, we got approached by a solar company that asked us if we could do this same model for lead gen for solar. And so funny enough, I was, just agreed to try it out. I was given a box with a couple iPads, some flyers. I never touched a solar panel or, I kind of understood how it worked and was kind of told how to figure it out. So, from the day I was, given a box of flyers and iPads, from about 12 months later, I grew the largest field sales rep solar operation in the country at 11 teams in 9 states. And it was a lot of fun because we got to do lead gen in a different way. Most lead gen, people think of solar sales as door to door. Door to door, I have done door to door before. It's really not my forte. There's people that are way better in that spot than I am. So, but anything outside of door to door, I kind of learned and paved my way in the solar industry. And that's how I got started 13 years ago, actually at the Angel Anaheim Stadium. It was the first ever lead gen event I did for solar 13 years ago.
Wow, exciting times, and congrats on the initial success there. I love door-to-door sales in the beginning. I was actually doing installations in the morning. We start here in the desert on 5 a.m. It was summertime, so 5 a.m. where we get together with the crew, and we like to start and decide around like 6:30ish, because it gets so hot you can literally burn out on the roofs after 12. But then I would go back to the same locations and just walk around and spread the word about solar and what we're doing and how it works. In the beginning, for you, when you joined, you had initial success with the lead gen activities you did. Was there anything that surprised you in the industry, whether it's positive or negative way, if you can share a little bit more there?
What surprised me primarily is, with a lot of the solar companies I work with, was they were trying to approach lead gen because everyone usually typically comes from a heavy door-to-door background and fit that door-to-door lead gen model into these various other channels, when there's some of that is very transferable, but there's a lot of it that you had to kind of like recreate, because a door pitch is a lot different than, meeting someone organically at an event. And there's just different ways on how you can, build trust, give people valuable information, and then hook them to be interested enough to either invite you into their home for a further presentation or a phone consultation. What was kind of surprising is how many sales agents didn't know the product they were selling. I was guilty of that when I first started. I never touched a solar panel. I never went to an install. A lot of the guys that just get off in the industry, they're thrown into a class on how to learn solar, and they're never really talked about the operational side and the install side, which I ended up learning is absolutely the most important part, is the fulfillment, because 70% of all reviews in our space are based on the installation and if the customer's happy with what we're fulfilling. So there was a big disconnect from what the sales agents were selling versus what the homeowner was receiving, which didn't create continuity or a good experience. So learning to wave my way through that and create a better experience and clearer communication is definitely what helped myself be successful in the industry. But yeah, that's where I would say there's a big disconnect even today. There's such a high turnover, especially in door to door. Sales isn't for everyone. It's actually one of the toughest jobs in the world. Learning how to talk to someone and building that trust. But so there's so much turnover. So there's not as much time put into teaching solar reps about the equipment and how it works. And really, that if you know and understand that, it really transfers over across the kitchen table to the homeowner, because you're not just another rep at their door, you're actually giving them some valuable information. So that's where I think the big disconnect is in the industry. It's gotten a lot better over the 13 years, but I think this industry and others could take note on making sure that the sales guys are aligned with operations and that each part knows what they're doing.
100%, I agree with you. And what was shocking to me when I realized that probably after doing like 10 or 15 installations, that the installation crew had no idea what was the manufacturer of the panels that we install. Funny enough, we were actually the manufacturer of those panels. It was with the company that manufactured the panels in Europe. And then we brought the panels here and we had our own panels, the same as the company. And they had no idea because they didn't care. And then the same thing for the salespeople. They often didn't pay attention to any of the technical stuff or any, not even technical. Technical is one thing, but for me, like the process behind going solar in United States, the process of going solar is a bit complicated to say the least. To get the permission to operate, there's a few steps that you have to take. Versus in Europe, the way I knew it is you could technically sell it today on Monday and have it installed on Friday and probably interconnected Monday the latest. So you can do a 7-day turnaround. And usually it's cash paid purchase as well or self-finance. So there's a lot less steps that you have to take. And no one really, I mean, no, I don't want to overgeneralize it. There were some that actually paid attention to it, but I agree with you. Most of the sales rep didn't really understand the process. They just wanted to sell because the commission was nice back then. And I'm not sure how it is right now. And yeah, there was some unethical behaviors that I observed over the years from the very beginning. When you first of all, are you doing mostly residential, only residential, or are you doing some commercial jobs as well?
Yeah, primarily it's 90% residential. We have done some commercial. We're actually looking at that now, especially with the new big beautiful bill that just passed and is like yanking all the tax incentives at the end of this year. So the market's definitely going to change in a big way. I think solar, even after the tax credit, is going to be viable. Just companies are going to have to change and adapt for what they need to do and what offer they give to the customer. But yeah, I've done, personally, I've done 95% residential, only a little bit of commercial. I have a great relationship with WattHub, a little shout out to them up in Utah, a great commercial platform. So anytime we have some commercial needs or I have a customer either here in Southern Nevada or another part of the country, I usually lean on WattHub to help us fulfill those projects.
Love it. I've done 6 or 7 residential projects in Utah around Salt Lake City. It was fun to visit and be there. Beautiful areas. And I read somewhere before the meeting with you that 54 seconds is a new solar install rate according to the last, I guess, 12 months data. So it's surprising to me. And how do you think the new beautiful bill will impact that? Do you think more installers will start looking for alternatives, like you said, and move into commercial space, focus on the commercial space more? Do you think there is still a huge demand for solar? Obviously, if we want to change the infrastructure, how we consume and produce energy in the United States, I think we can't stop. We have to continue at that pace. So what's your take overall on the shift in the industry that we are observing or experiencing right now, witnessing right now, because it's very up to date?
No, great question. Yes, there's solar's been rapidly changing over these last 13 years, and I think it's going to go through a lot more growing pains over the next 12 to 18 months. I think what's going to need to take place there's first of all, with the big beautiful bill passing, I would say 50 to 60% of solar companies as they stand today are not prepared for that change and will potentially go out of business. So unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of renewable energy jobs in the solar sector phasing out over the next 12 to 18 months, which is sad. But, anytime there's kind of a chaos or change, there's always a time for opportunity and to attack it from a different angle. I think the sentiment is solar companies are going to have to turn into more of a home improvement company, where solar is just another home improvement product. And with that, you offer, upgrading pool pumps, windows, re-roofs, even to remodeling kitchen cabinets or whatever you need to do to make sure that you can kind of give that whole home approach to a customer. So I think, the amount of margin that solar companies are used to making in solar is definitely going to be squeezed quite tight with the passing of this bill. And so it's going to be important to look at other avenues within the home that we could provide value and make some money on, so that way we can keep our doors and keep operating. And with that, it's going to take really good relationships, whether you bring that stuff in house or whether you have great relationships with other contractors in town. I think it's going to take a great shift in the way we approach business. Also, I think the most successful way of moving forward is wholesale direct to the consumer. As you know, being in solar, you spoke about it a little bit earlier, the commissions are great, and sometimes a solar sales rep would make more than the real estate agent selling the home to that person, which is is kind of outrageous, but that's just the way the industry was. And so sales reps are going to learn to have to be okay with making less money and providing a better deal to homeowners. So I think the baseline model we see now, when a sales rep is given a certain baseline per watt to sell and they get anything above that, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more fixed pricing from the contractor, where there's fixed commission structure for the rep. And then that way the homeowner is guaranteed to get value with their system. And the last caveat I'll say to that is, anytime you have an industry like solar kind of being yanked out, the utility companies are going to get greedy. Oh, they always do get greedy. They're going to raise their rates. Here in Las Vegas over the next 12 months, our rates are scheduled to go up 25%. And so once that happens, once solar energy prices gets over 20 kilowatt cents per, 20 cents per kilowatt hour, that's when, selling solar again without incentive makes a lot of sense. I know there's markets like California and San Diego and other parts of the country that already have high utility rates, but we're going to see the adoption of battery systems a lot more as that technology improves. There's going to be a lot of that attached to solar systems and being able to arbitrage that savings. So I think, the solar industry will prevail, but it's definitely going to go through some growing pains.
100%. And just for perspective for the viewers, we're talking, you mentioned jobs that obviously might be looking for different opportunities moving forward. We're talking about 279,000 jobs at the solar, and most of it probably most of it would be like residential side of things, jobs that we're talking about nationwide. So it's obviously it will have a huge impact, and already has. And also, you mentioned utility companies. I feel like they kind of never cooperated with the solar installers or even with homeowners. I mean, they're cranked up our electric bill per kilowatt hour by 75% over the last 10 months. Here
Oh, wow.
across the street from us, we're right on the border from there's two utility companies pretty much here. There's across the street, they pay about 40 cents on average, probably during the summertime, 38, 39 cents, something like that. So we're still lucky. We can still consider ourselves lucky. However, it's definitely something that impacts everyone's wallet every single month. It's significant bill, and I feel like the utility companies never really thought about the consumers, the homeowner, who we need energy. We need more energy because we have electric vehicles all around. People will continue to consume. We have electrification of everything. Every little device you have at your house needs electricity to be powered. Internet, all of that. I mean, if we don't have enough power, we don't exist almost. Like it sounds like it. It's there's definitely a
No,
big need.
exactly. I think that's where we're going to see some microgrids starting to pop up and emerge. There's going to have to be a agreement between the consumer, the homeowner, and the utility. You're starting to see some communities that have already done that, where the utility will give an incentive to the homeowner to install a battery, but that utility company has access to discharge that battery during certain times and then fill it up off peak time. The one thing with solar that's the big pushback is, it creates a big duct. So, when you're producing energy when the sun's out, there's the big heavy demand. You've got a lot of energy going back on the grid, But as soon as everyone gets home from work, 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, fires up their AC systems or starts cooking, and the sun's going down right when the peak time on the grid is, and it creates a huge strain on the grid. So there's going to have to be a big marriage between energy storage and solar moving forward to survive for the next chapter of solar energy. But yeah, I do agree with you. As the United States grows with industry and with AI coming on board in just many ways, all over the country, there's going to be a ginormous demand for solar. So, it's unfortunate that that was part of the big, beautiful bill, but I think there's enough creative leaders in our space that can work around and still make it work. But initially, as you mentioned, 200 plus thousand jobs. I think it's more like 350 to 400,000 jobs when you talk about all the supporting companies that support the solar industry. And my prediction is that, we're going to see 1 to 2/3 of that go away by Q1, Q2 next year.
Wow. Well, that's going to be devastating news for many families. I hope we're gonna figure something out. And I like what you said, the marriage between energy storage and solar. I think microgrids would be a smart move for, I mean, win-win situation for the utility companies and for homeowners. I think that would be a smart decision. I've already seen it working on a smaller scale in certain regions, not only in the US but also overseas. I think this model can work. I mean, it would be great to be charging electric vehicles if you have one or two in your household, to charge them during the day from that peak sun hour, but that's almost never the case. I mean, unless you go and charge at work, that's a different story. That's completely different. So there's definitely, those vehicles are almost like mobile batteries if you look at it from that perspective. But yeah, that would be definitely something to see. What we will start seeing moving forward: energy storage, solar. You've mentioned innovations, but before we talk about innovations in AI, I read somewhere that you installed a 10 kilowatt system on a roof within 8 hours somewhere. And is that the speed of installation? Is that something that when your sales teams go out and essentially try to earn business, win some business, is that one of the things that you talk about? How effective your company is, and an installation, how smooth they usually go. What else do they usually talk about when it comes to earning someone's trust and business in a already low trust industry, if we can call it that way?
Yeah, great question. I mean, one of the things we do differently here at RG Electric is we just have a great operations team, from contract signing to getting glass on the roof. So depending on what jurisdiction you're in here locally, there's times where if the customer waives their 3-day right to cancel, we can get them signed, processed, permits, and installed on their roof within 3 days. The turning on and activating the system takes a little longer out here through NVM. It could be anywhere from 2 to a 3.5 week process. But what really makes us different is, there's a lot of moving parts that go behind the scenes, from making sure you have the right plan sets, the equipment, are there HOA docs that need to be submitted, communicating all of that with the homeowner as you go along, and then obviously ultimately delivering what you promised them on their roof. And it goes beyond that. You need to follow up with your homeowner, 3, 6, 12 months down the line, and make sure they're still having that good experience. What makes us different here in Southern Nevada is we're a Pearl certified contractor. So for every solar installation we do, you get a Pearl certification on your home. It actually helps lock in that value of that asset. One of the bigger questions across the dinner table is, will this solar system really add value to my home? And, with realtors and inspectors and appraisers not always being on the same page, we work with Pearl certification to make sure, in the event that our homeowner needs to pull out equity from the home or sell the home, that they have a Pearl certification and all the documents that go along with it, so they can get that value of their solar system. Because there's two different values to solar. There's the instant savings off of, your utility, owning your own power, getting away from that 3 to 6% increase year over year. And then the second one is the equity it adds to your home. And so if you're not able to balance that and show the customer the value of both sides, that it's hard not to close a deal when you're able to do that. As far as what makes us different as well, is we just buy a lot of our equipment in bulk. We have some great equipment and material providers. And so we don't have to buy products per job. So we're able just to go out into our warehouse and pull equipment as we need, which helps speed up the process for sure.
Can you elaborate on the Pearl certification? It's a fairly new term to me, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will experience the same.
Yeah, so Pearl certification, you can check out their website. I think it's pearlcertification.com. It's basically we're certifying the home as a high performing home. You can also add other things to your certification to get a higher rating, whether it's, high efficient AC systems, pool pumps, insulation, windows. Obviously, we're a solar company, so we focus mainly on solar. And so with that certification, backed by the Department of Energy, the Energy Star, Appraisal Institute of Technology, and there's two other big institutions I can't recall off the top of my brain that allow Pearl certification to certify homes to be a high performing home. Once your home is certified Pearl certification, you typically get a 3 to 5% more value on the resale of your home. And so 2 weeks to 4 weeks after installation, our homeowners get a Pearl certification emailed to them, which includes their full report of their system. It also has a letter to the appraiser and to the lender. So in the event they need to pull out equity or sell the home, that they can show that paperwork and say, hey, due to federal law, you by law have to account for this asset as added value to the home. And so a lot of solar companies aren't Pearl certified. You have to kind of go through a rigorous process to get vetted to go through it. It took us about 18 months to get vetted and look at our finances and go back through our customer history. But yeah, the Pearl certification is definitely helped us grow and provide value and security and trust with our customers.
I like it. And I've done several real estate transactions here in Southern California. I've yet to come across the Pearl certification. I do like it. I mean, there's a lot of misconception on both sides, buyers, agents, sellers, agents, homeowner. How can we position solar in this house? Or my neighbors doesn't have solar, and how can I compare my house with solar? Do I have lease? Do I have paid PPA? Do I purchase it outright? Do I have a financing that I have to pay off for it? There's so many different moving parts in every transaction, where solar could be definitely simplified for everyone involved in the transaction. So I like that. I have to look into that, to be honest. I haven't seen it yet. So thanks so much for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Innovations. Let's talk about innovations. What are you using currently, or your teams are using, as far as artificial intelligence, maybe some automations, maybe something on the operational side as well, not only marketing and sales, that you're excited about or you're investigating recently?
Well, I think and that's another great question because innovation drives any technology, growing sector. And solar is definitely kind of a computer connected to a power generation system. So, let's take it first kind of on the sales and marketing side. We use a sales platform called Interflow. It's basically a fully integrated CRM, from design tool to contract signing to getting our customers qualified on a specific loan product, all in one space. 13 years ago, that wasn't really possible. You either had to do things manually on paper, you had to request a design in to a design team, and then you'd have to wait to get it back. It could sometimes take more than a day to get back. But now, what's exciting, especially about Interflow, is their analytics tool that's in there. Is whether you're a seasoned professional sales rep or you're just starting out, they have these AI integrations with building high-end designs at the touch of a finger. That is all done by AI that will re-render and 3D draw the house. It'll show where all the shade is, where the sun's going to go at certain times of the year, and spit out a really accurate proposal in a few minutes, which used to take a day or two to do. So we're seeing that a lot more, especially on the social media side, also with integrated with email platform marketing. Even call centers are starting to turn to AI generated. I was on the phone the other day, and it took me about 3 minutes to realize that I was even really not talking to a real person, just to see how the technology, and I was kind of laughing about it because, we all think of the automated call people when you call the bank or whoever you need to get a hold of, the utility company, and you're just saying customer service, like get me to someone real. And now with AI, it's kind of blending the two together. So I think any company that can leverage AI is definitely going to, just 10x their ability to provide work and provide good service to the customer. I think on the marketing side, you basically have a tool that can work for you 24/7. But we're seeing AI both from the sales and marketing standpoint, as far as outreach through social media, generating posts, creating websites. I mean, it's almost touching every aspect of the business, to even AI integration into the inverters and the equipment that they use to constantly monitor and read what's going on. So obviously, there's a long way to go with AI technology, but it's pretty exciting stuff. It's kind of scary at the same time how good it's getting this quickly.
I feel the same. And I try to approach it always with an open mind and remove the emotions. I mean, emotions will definitely not be your friend when it comes to like all these innovations, because like you said, it's scary. It might replace you completely. You don't even know if you're talking to a human being or some artificial voice or maybe artificial person. I mean, I see already sometimes walking through the mall here, those holograms of people standing and talking to you. So it's not even, it's an actual person standing there, and from far it looks like a real person, the way it's structured. And then you approach it and this is like a hologram of someone trying to market their products or whatever it is. So it can be crazy for sure. You've mentioned design being obviously a big part of it, and I thought about it. I think I don't see often, we need a lot of education when it comes to solar. There's so many moving parts. There is the technical part, there is the interconnection with the utility part, choosing the inverter, the brain of the installation, the way, the position of the solar system, location, etc. I think content marketing for that would be really good to show those demos, like how you design a system, how you choose the proper equipment, and then essentially clip it into short form videos and do those maybe weekly or bi-monthly, where you would essentially do like a demo on live, maybe even live, break down, how you would install solar on this particular house in that location. That would be a cool content to stand out. And also, the last comment on that, I was researching this morning, AI search engine optimization. Not sure if you play with it enough, but when you I was actually looking for a solar designing tool. AI gave me, I used Perplexity, gave me 4 or 5 different tools. Obviously, as you can imagine, Aurora was on the top 3 positions. There's 4
Oh
other
yeah,
companies
they're
that I
one of the
don't.
largest.
Yes, and there's a few other I don't remember, but essentially I told it what I needed for. It looked it up, so that's what I mean by AI search engine optimization. So then I look from the other side and I research more. What does a company need to stand out in AI and be featured by AI, be recommended by AI, and start digging into that. And essentially, so far my research says that the results from the initial research were that you kind of need almost everything as typical search engine optimization. You need to be featured. You need to have some authority publications. You need to have content online. You need to be talked about online. So whether your customers, clients, partners, you kind of need all of that to be slowly featured, slowly introduced to the algorithms, and essentially be featured by AI. So I think this is a big move moving forward, because I mean, AI, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, all of those platforms are used pretty much by everyone right now. Everyone who has access to the internet, I would say, and this can become really good. Have you ever done any research on AI search engine optimization?
Oh, I mean, I mean, even the Google platform is already getting AI integrated. When you search
Oh, yeah.
something, the AI tool's already pulling you up a definition or trying to pull information before it drops down the website links. I use ChatGPT to help write a lot of my emails or my sales meeting outlines. Now, you do have to know how to input and prompt it so it can actually create what you want it to create. And it's not always perfect, but it definitely helps you perform more tasks throughout the day. I've played with a few other tools as far as social media, where you're making a photo into a cartoon and then turning it into an educational video online to try to gain customers. But I've probably only scratched the surface 5 to 10% in the AI world. So I definitely am not the AI expert, but it is something I do use on a daily basis and continue to learn more about.
Absolutely. There's so much to discover. Now, what's your favorite way, maybe also what's your most effective way to earn business in your line of business, your line of service in 2025, let's say?
The most effective way is through referrals. I think if you've been in business for a while, there's nothing like the quality of work that speaks for yourself. So it always makes me laugh a little bit when you see companies that have good volume and have done a lot of installations on why they're struggling into the future. Because if you've done good work and you treat people with respect and do touchstones with them, not just after the sale, but let them know you're part of your solar family. When they start talking to friends and family, you're going to be at top of mind when when they're referring someone. So I think referrals is going to drive a lot of our business and has, and it's going to help move us into this next chapter of solar post ITC tax credit. Also, event marketing is definitely a big area where we cut our teeth. I think, the door-to-door model, calling people on the phone. I mean, I've never had someone knock on my door where you're not like, who's at my door, who's kind of disturbing me right away. Is it Amazon? Is it a pest control guy? Like, I got my baby crying upstairs, or a phone call that comes through and you're just like hanging up because you already know there's a delay between saying hi. With events, you're able to, organically meet people and kind of meet people with their guard down. And so you can actually give them the valuable information about solar and how it could benefit their life. I don't think people realize, like, especially if you have a young kid, if you switch to solar, I mean, that savings that you had is going to pay for their college by the time they get to college,
That's a
add
cool.
value to your house. And so unfortunately, there's been a lot of bad actors in this industry, which has created a lot of bad sentiment. And, that's always 10 times more powerful than something positive. And so I think it just takes a lot more of the good actors and the good homeowners and the referrals that you have, and the stories you have about success stories to be shared. So people kind of get out of their own way and take the plunge into owning their own power. And it's the only infinite debt still connected to your house that you can own. So, you bought your home to have value and equity. You should want to own every part of that property that you can. And solar is definitely a big part of that. So I think, it's all about relationships and building trust. At the end of the day, to be successful, it's going to land on your reputation. You can lose it in 3 seconds. And so you got to protect it with your life. And so, just making sure you have a great stellar reputation in the market. If you make a mistake, own it, take care of it, fix it. And if you have successes, have gratitude and, thank people for their business.
I love it. Absolutely, 100%. And this is actually a really interesting way to look at it. To pay for college, solar is going to pay for your kids' college if you look at it that way. I mean, also another thought, an idea that came to me as you were explaining it, that there should be always a process in place to collect those testimonial in any form: video, text, email, Instagram DM, wherever you are. You should always have a wall of love, or however you want to call it, where customers express their either concerns, gratitude. Concerns are good too. You can always have a 5-star across the board, but if you have a 3 or 2.5 star, you can always make it up, communicate, and maybe turn it into a 4-star. You can't please everyone in any business, but there's definitely a gold mine there too, because if someone expresses a concern, someone else will have the same thing, and you know how to approach it now. Good idea there for sure. Now, if you had an opportunity to sit across the table from David 13 years ago, what advice would you give him?
Run. No, just kidding. I would just continue to say focus on the experience that you're giving to the homeowner. There's a lot of things that go on in someone's day. And so when you actually engage with the homeowner or potential client, it's going to be the experience you leave them with that they're going to remember. If you're just, vanilla all the time and you don't have any sort of organic truth about yourself or authenticity, it's not going to land. It's going to go out one ear or down the other. So it's really important on how you make people feel, just as important as the information that you're giving them. I would definitely tell myself, learn more on the operations side and continue to stay organized and, keep your head up. You get some bad months in sales and it can really affect your psyche. So having a good head on your shoulders and having a good support team around you to lift you up when you might be having a bad month or a bad few days is definitely important. And make sure you seek out really good mentorship and really good leaders in your space. With LinkedIn, with all these other platforms, people are so much more easy accessible than they were 13 years ago. And so, if you don't have a mentor and you want to take on a certain sector of business, find someone that you like on YouTube or that you get value from and reach out to them and see if you can get some mentorship. I think that's one of the most important things. And what I would say to myself 13 years ago, and even if I was starting today, go seek mentorship from someone who knows what they're doing.
Fantastic advice right there. Absolutely. I agree with you with the mentorship. And also wanted to say, if we talked about before recording about golfing, I just spoke with a company that specializes in creating bucket list golfing experiences all around the world. So they have access to the top golfing resorts all around the world, and they create those experiences for their clients. And he said one of the founder actually said that he quoted Maya Angelou, who said that people won't remember what you told them, but they will remember how you made them feel. Customer experience is definitely
Yep.
key, because that's something that they won't ever forget if you made it a pleasant and a smooth experience. And even if something goes wrong, if you're open about it, transparent all around, I think people will respect that, and they will definitely keep spreading good word about you. So thanks so much for sharing. My last question for you, David, is what's next? Where's the North Star? What are you excited about in the future? And we'll wrap it up after that.
Man, well, great question. I think, what's next for me is, to continue to grind in the solar industry and to help it pivot into 2026 and give mentorship to people and other companies that are looking for support in making that transition from a post ITC. I already kind of have a vision, and I have some really good friends and like-minded business people in this world that we kind of see where we could do to make the adjustments to make it work. And just as a caveat on back on reputation and what will make companies more successful going into 2026 and even this year is community partnerships. Us at RG Electric, we partnered with the Nevada Veterans Foundation, which we give $250 per installation that we do in year 2025, which goes directly to support the Fisher House. And the Fisher House is kind of a neat thing. It's a 16-bedroom house. It's kind of like a mansion, full service house that sits at the large VA hospital here. And any military families can stay there for free while their loved ones are getting patched up at the hospital. And so I think community partnerships and alignment with any business is a very good thing to have, because you have a story to tell. You have something different than just a product. You have community outreach and what you're doing to impact your community in a positive way. So I think expanding on that community outreach and impact is something I'm very interested in as we continue to drive our veteran and military channel at RG Electric, because we do wholesale pricing direct to any military families or veterans. And I think as the model turns, the North Star is just continue to serve those who've served us, and the rest should take care of itself.
In the name of all those who fought for our freedom, thank you for giving back. I think we can all agree that this is a great cause, always giving back, paying back. That's what I love about entrepreneurship and being able to live in a country where you can build company and establish something, because you get an opportunity to show your true colors and give back at sometimes. That's always a great initiative. So thank you for that. And I wanted to say that it was a good conversation when 40 minutes feels like 4 minutes.
It's already
Or
been that long, huh?
it's already been 40 minutes. Feels like few minutes that we've been on. But thanks so much for stopping by. It was a pleasure to host you. I look forward to seeing your future projects, seeing you guys grow, and hopefully I'll make my way out to Las Vegas sometime soon, and we grab some coffee there and talk about solar and some other topics, and maybe AI as well, which is an interesting up and coming topic for sure. So thanks so much for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Sounds good. I appreciate that you having me on. And, if I could ever add value in the future, you know how to get a hold of me. So the lastly I'll say is to anyone, don't be afraid to fail, chase your dreams. Everyone looks at me as a one-hit wonder sometimes with friends and family that, you got to this level, but they didn't see all the failures you had in between and the couches you slept on. So no matter where you're at, you're one failure away from being successful. Don't be afraid to take that next step. And thank you again for having me.
Like that tip of an iceberg in that picture, where you see only the tip of the iceberg, but you don't see what's below. All the, like you said, nights at the spent on the floor and couch and grinding when no one was watching. So thanks so much for sharing that as well.
God bless.